Welcome to the Building and Growing podcast. We're delighted to have Tom Pyle from Introde. Welcome, Tom.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's nice to be here. I'm excited to speak to you today.
You're most welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. And, you've got a fantastic background, which we've covered, both, in the studio pre-podcast and in a couple of chats that we've had before. So do you want to kick off with an intro to yourself, Tom?
Yeah, of course. Thanks for saying it's interesting. Good background. I'm pleased to hear that.
No worries.
So I spent the last 15 years building startup and scale up businesses side by side with founders.
Yes.
Originally, I started in agency recruitment and really didn't like it. I wasn't particularly good at it either. And I think it's probably because you don't like it, right? I'm a huge fan of strength-based coaching and stuff like that. And I didn't like the model. I didn't understand it. It seemed a little bit like, let's just make as much cash as possible without thinking about the impact of what we're doing and the impact that that has on the end customer, right?
Yeah, that's it.
There's like this spoken narrative that it does care. However, in like huge percentages, I was never sure that it did. And there are definitely companies out there, particularly in the modern world. I'm talking like almost 20 years ago now.
Yeah.
But in the modern version, there are some examples that are really, really good at it, and they do care, and they get almost embedded in the businesses. So that's an interesting shift. But at the time, I wasn't very good at it. I didn't particularly like it. I wanted to challenge the status quo, which has been a constant in my life, and the way I've evolved my career is like, let's try to do things differently all the time and uniquely to the situation that we're in.
Yes.
Rather than like carry dogma everywhere, because I find that odd. I remember I did a media interview about 10 years ago when I was at Pusher, and somebody asked me like, what's your playbook for building talent and operations?
Yeah.
And I said, I don't have one. Like, I have founding principles, but if I have a playbook, I'm going to turn every company into Pusher or every company into Badoo/Bumble. Do you know what I mean? And the outcomes that are desired are just so very different from each founder. The products are different. The space that we operate in are different. The types of people that we need are different. Like, you have to deeply understand the business that you're in and the outcomes that you want. So I kind of got out of agency recruitment very quickly.
Yeah.
Was fortunate. A guy called Brad took a punt on me at Badoo.
Yes.
And I think about my interview then, and like, he definitely took a punt. Like, horrifying. Some of the things I said and how like naive I was to actually what it means to build internal functions inside technology startups. I was always in love with technology and was always in love with like startup and breakout technology and what it was going to do for the way we lived as human beings. And we're seeing massive implications of that with like AI now, right? And that's going to continue. And I was obsessed and I wanted to help. And I've always cared deeply about outcomes as well, and how do we measure those things against the outcomes of a company so that we're having impact. So I did that doing that now for about 15 years. Worked with 7 founders side by side.
Nice.
Lots of different product sets. Done everything from like social media and dating, music in VR, and fintech.
Yes.
SaaS a couple of times.
Yes.
And I've always cared a lot about like the product. What problem is it solving? Is it going to scale? And is it going to change the way people do things en masse?
Yeah. You want to be pushing the rock down the hill.
Yeah. I love the impact that things can have, right? And I need to see that. Like, I don't just want to be involved in a like momentary trend that's going to disappear very quickly. I want something that's going to have bigger impacts. So I've always thought about that when I've joined businesses, and I care deeply about the products. I think I'm more of a product thinker than I am talent or people thinker.
Yeah.
I like to solve problems that are going to scale, and how do we figure that out?
Indeed.
I've been really fortunate. Whilst I've been mostly in people and talent, I've got to touch lots of other things and problems in scaling businesses over the years. Yes. Everything from actually shipping a mobile app.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Which, as a product owner, which I should absolutely have never been anywhere near, but we went through it.
It's the beauty of startups.
Yeah, right the way to looking at like, how are we operationally more efficient at scale? So I've done all of that, like vast array of things, and I consider myself more of a problem solver.
Yeah.
So like high problem solving intellect rather than like academic intellect. My academic background is almost zero.
Yeah.
So I always felt like I was at a little bit of a disadvantage.
But I mean, in the startup world, I know like quite a few people who have become, like millionaires or whatever, despite not having completed uni or anything. It's because they're good operators. They can solve problems in a practical manner, which solves problems for other stakeholders, which is worth so much more than having a paper that says, I solved a couple of problems for people at uni in a case study. And I say that I've got, like 2 master's degrees and a bachelor degree, and they said, graduate from business school and you'll get like every single job served to you. Actually, like
that's not true, right?
Yeah, it's not true at all. If you want jobs and contracts to be served to you, you need to be able to solve problems and demonstrate how you're doing that.
I always said in hiring, particularly in startups and scale ups, the like magic ticket for anybody is like strong academia, but able to apply that practically.
Yes.
And solve problems in a startup world.
Yeah.
And have outcomes. Right.
Yes.
So how are you going to take all of that knowledge that you have, which is power, right? And then apply it to the place that you're going to work to solve problems really quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're the best people. And we'll talk about this in a bit, but like, it's one of the reasons why we built Intro and some of the products that we offer are what they are, is understanding deeply the company.
Yes.
The type of people that will have success there, and then matching those two things.
Yeah,
it's really important. I've seen great academics.
Yes. From
like top tier school, elite tier schools, we used to call them. I once upon a time managed to get my hand on the like total computer science school ranking globally. So I had every school ranked, right? And I've seen amazing top of class academics come out of top of class universities, be hired and fail miserably.
Yeah, yeah.
In a startup. Doesn't make them bad operators. It means that their optimal operating space isn't in that particular company or that particular stage of company.
Indeed.
They should just be somewhere else. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
But people often go to startups because like it's cool, it's really interesting, and it is cool and it is interesting, and your learning curve is like that. But if you don't have like the characteristics, both behaviourally but also how you execute things, you'll fail. Right?
That's right.
And that's a really interesting thing. So I've been doing that for 15 years.
Fantastic.
Now, side by side with founders. Someone once told me I had like a beacon for working with hyper complex, hyper intelligent, challenging founders at one point in my career, which I've loved and has fundamentally made me a better operator and has given me the tools to then go and found something myself for sure. So I don't regret it. Some of them have been super challenging. Some of them have had like adverse publicity around them.
Yes.
Often actually because of a lack of understanding for the person, their motivations and what they're trying to achieve. You often see that when like people haven't been close enough to it. And again, that's also probably a mismatched thing in hiring at the beginning. So that's an interesting, I mean, you've worked at some interesting places too, right?
I'm in Revolut, continues to get a bit of adverse publicity. It was just part of the game.
I mean, I spoke reasonably publicly about Nikolai, and he was really honest about what he was doing and what it was like to work there, and the sacrifices and the rewards that were there. And I've never had a problem with that, like direct, radically honest approach. He does get bagged on for it. That's from people often that haven't worked with him, don't understand him, or don't understand what's trying to achieve, or just shouldn't be working with him in the first place. I mean,
it's not for everyone. Sometimes people don't. Some people don't want to be in the office later than 5 o'clock, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you got to pick the company that you work for.
Find your optimal operating space, right?
That's
it's the argument that I had at the time in a public talent forum. So he did the public interview about like we work 16 hours a day, we get shit done. Did Ali coin that phrase or did Nikolai coin that phrase? That's the thing in both companies. They're both fintech businesses, really interesting. But he did a public interview about it, and my industry went nuts. Like that's this, that's that. It's not going to be able to hire certain types of people. And I was like, okay, maybe what you're saying is true, but let's challenge it for a minute, right? Before we just jump on the let's hate Revolut wagon, right? Because they're doing some great stuff, right? Building a great product. It's a really interesting thing. He's been really honest, sure, he's probably difficult, right? He's hyper intellectual. He's got a completely different way of thinking to most people. He's founded a bank. I think you have to be a little bit crazy to found a bank. Like, let's take on the biggest institution in the world. Really? I said it to Ali at the time, right? Why didn't you just build another payment service? Like, you'd have made a massive success of that. It's far less regulated, and you're building a bank. And his mission was to genuinely change banking for the greater good for the people that use those products. So it's interesting. And my industry, I said, okay, to one particular person, why is that bad? And that person responded to me with, I have kids and I can't work there. I wouldn't work there.
Yeah.
So it's causing people that have kids not to work there. I was like, no, that's your choice. And your assumption is that everybody else who's got kids has the same thinking as you.
Indeed.
That's not true.
Yeah.
Right? It's a big sweeping thing that's just not true. All he said is like, here's what it is here. Come here if you want. And that means that nobody should go there who doesn't want that, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's totally fine.
Yeah. Indeed.
Otherwise, all companies will just be the same.
That's right. Indeed.
And it would be a really boring world.
Yeah. No, it would be. Tom, before we jump on to intro, do you have a favorite war story from your operator days when, you mentioned you were a product manager, you mentioned, that you were really
masquerading
hands-on.
as a product manager.
Or masquerading as well. Yeah, that's it. But, you've worked with a lot of different founders. You've been in the trenches.
Yeah.
Is there any one story that really stands out?
The product manager one's really interesting, right? Because I'd just never done it before. We were sat in a meeting with the SLT or parts of the SLT at the time that were more focused on the technology piece and a couple of the advisors that were on the board. And we were trying to do something fairly radical, fairly quickly.
Yeah.
And at the time, the business had good talent in the engineering function, but no like direction and efficiency for delivery. And we were building a mobile product for a specific event.
Yes.
And way behind, right? Like,
We
had no product people in the business. We had an engineering function that was building infrastructure, or at the time only maintaining infrastructure for the users that we had today.
Yes.
Despite the launch thing that we were launching would probably 10x the amount of users in that one hit, which meant everything would fall over. And we're working in an industry where if that happens, your reputation's done. So we were in the room and we were like, well, how are we going to deliver this thing? And I was like, well, for a start, you need a proper product lead who's going to get this and the team into the right place so that we can deliver on time, but with a high quality. It's naturally an MVP, that's fine. Yeah. And we'll learn stuff, but it can't fall over. Yes. In fact, the stream cannot go off. Yeah. Because that's it, right? We are the partner for this particular event. And because of my background, I'd always worked with technology and product teams. So at Badoo, I looked after all of the hiring for, Badoo and Bumble looked after for the hiring for all of the technology parts of the business and the product parts of the business. And then went to, my next role was with a business that was a software developer tool. Yeah. And they built things that other software engineers didn't have to. Very infrastructure, very nerdy. Been around engineering my entire time there, products, implemented products into the business. Yes. Hired a whole product org into that business. And they all just, I even did a couple of, I should never have talked about it. And I think this is the thing that made me end up in that place. I did a couple of coding camps. Just like mini ones. And I never did them to become a coder. I didn't want to become a coder. Yes. Like, that's a thing you have to do continuously to become really good at. Indeed. It's a really complex thing. And I did them because I wanted to understand how do we build best hiring practices to hire the best software engineers in a given environment. Yeah. And what are the nuances that are required? Because I'd heard recruiters for years and years go, oh, the task is causing dropout there, things like that. And I was always frustrated by that because I was like, that's making your job as the recruiter easier by taking the hard bit out. It takes a little bit more time, but does it serve the outcome that we want? Like a really great hire who's going to have success here. And it after doing the coding camps, it has to exist. Yeah. The best version of it is you've built something that they'll potentially work on there, or types of problems that they would solve with your people in the business that you're hiring for. So they have to exist. So I did it because of that. Yeah. And I wrote a blog post about it. I did a couple of interviews about it. Yep. And it was picked up by this particular employer as well. So we're sat in this room with this massive problem about releasing a mobile app in like under 3 months.
Yeah.
And they all just went, well, you're the most technical person in this room. Why don't you do it? And I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah, shivers.
instantly was a bit like, say no.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then was like, no, I like to solve problems. And I know a bunch of people in that world. Let's do it. Like, we're not going to hire someone in time. We're not going to do that. We're already behind. Maybe this is the solution. And actually all we need is clear milestones, clear direction, clear outcomes. That's what I thought at the time.
Yeah.
And it got us over the line. But I immediately, like, they went, right, agreed. And I was like, oh, God. Right. You announce it to the business, I'm going out for the afternoon.
Yeah.
Like, where are you going? I was like, I'm going to speak to some product people that I know.
Yeah.
To understand how to do this. And they all said to me, like, strip it back to the basics.
Yeah.
What are the milestones that you need to achieve? What are the bottlenecks? And what's the outcome? And when do you need to deliver them by? And get the team aligned.
Yes.
And just run proper sprints, proper communication, and get it delivered. The chances are they'll look at that app in 3 years' time and go, that was a piece of crap.
Yeah.
Right? But it got the job done and it didn't fail. Just.
And
like,
that's what you need. You need to just be able to ship the MVP. You need to be able to ship it.
But they just weren't in shipping mode, right? They were in like autopilot. None of the engineering function were convinced that this thing was going to scale.
Yeah.
And new users were going to continuously come into the platform because they'd been in this state of like level for a long time. And I was like, no, this thing could go big. We're like a moment away from signing a big artist, right? To do a show. And that's like, if let's say you signed Rihanna by luck, which by the way, all of our commercial people were out trying to do, all of our music A&R people were out trying to do. And that's a relationship world.
Yes.
That could happen.
Yeah.
And if that does, we need to be ready. So it was also a lack of like, they didn't believe in the thing that they were working on. So we had to also motivate them that way as well.
Indeed.
And we just about, the scariest thing was like when the show goes live, right? I'm just sitting at home like, please don't fail.
Yeah.
Founder at the time was known to be demanding, let's call it that. And I was like, if this fails, I'm in the room on Monday, right?
Yeah,
like, you know how it goes,
yeah.
And then I spoke to it went without a glitch. It was great.
Good.
I spoke to the engineering lead on the Monday morning. They were in the war room, right?
Yeah.
I don't think we like calling them these days, but they were in the war room on the day, making sure everything was running. If anything failed, we had we had backup internet after backup internet after the show. Like,
far out.
They said that we were literally 3 concurrent connections, so 3 more users joining at the same time from it all falling over.
Far out. That's insane, eh? Yeah.
So that's my biggest war story, or the one that sticks out the most. There's been loads over the years, though. Right, we've solved so many problems, like taking a fintech multinational across Europe, thinking about going to New York. How are we going to do that in a business that just ships at crazy speed?
Yeah.
With a founder that's bootstrapping a bank, which is also insane.
Yeah, indeed.
Incredibly highly demanding, the fastest shipping organization I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
In the US or Europe, like, they were fast. I thought I was fast before I joined there. That was fun. We shipped an entire people product in under 3 months. We open sourced that stuff. We had our users come into the office even to have dinner with us at times. That was on my head to organize. Like, we did some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And I've had loads of fun doing it. But that's the thing that we spoke about, right? Is people that have success in those organizations, number one, know what they're getting into, are definitely up for that.
Yeah.
And then they become outcome orientated in that world. And it's problem solving, right? Or you'll get people who just want like a defined thing. They want to repeatedly use their skill to do it. And when it goes outside of that, it becomes like almost complain or moan or hide time.
Yeah.
That's not the type of person. That doesn't make them a bad or unintellectual operator.
Yes.
It means that they should just be somewhere else because they'll have more fun doing it over there, right? And that may be in a corporate setting. It may be in a setting that has loads more structure and they clearly understand. Or maybe they're better at contracting, right? Because that's go in, if we're using software engineering as an example, go in, continuously write code so that they can ship products and go home and not worry about it.
Yeah.
That's an environment for you. You want to work in a startup scale up, get ready to get some scars, some bumps, some bruises, but solve problems. Like, don't come at it with a like negative mindset. It's a really important thing.
Indeed. So look, Tom, we've covered your background starting off as, an external recruiter, moving in.
Can we forget that?
In-house. Yeah, we can forget that. No worries.
That's okay.
You know, moving in and really digging down into the trenches as a, you know, an operator within a startup, you know, scaling talent teams, shipping products, you know, working on a number of different interesting pieces. And now we're at the point where you've launched Intro. So talk us through that. How did the idea come up?
Yeah.
What problems were you hoping to solve?
So I mentioned earlier I worked with 7 founders, mostly side by side, right? And again, there was a pattern emerging in that. And I sat down one day and I thought about it, and I was like, right, I've always tried to pick companies with great scalable products that are going to solve problems with people en masse, right? So why did some of them fail? And why did some of them have massive success? So I started to dig into that. At the same time, I'm speaking to my co-founder Hugo about some stuff, and we're doing some consulting things with early stage founders, like really early, like pre-seed, seed stage founders.
Okay.
On commercial topics, on people and talent topics, on operational topics. Anyway, we're doing a bunch of stuff with them just on the side, right? Making a little bit of hustle money, helping some founders overcome some problems quicker than they would without maybe some of the advice we were giving them or some of the things we were executing for them.
Yes.
But I looked at this founder group, and 2 of them had enormous success and 5 didn't. The 5 that didn't had mediocre or worse outcomes.
Okay.
They're still operating, right? But why?
Yeah.
With such great product. And so I looked at it. I put profile side by side, university side. I did everything, right? I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, there's this big glaring thing here. And it was that the 2 were serial entrepreneurs. They were not first-time founders.
Okay.
And the others were first-time founders. Again, I want to be clear. That doesn't make them bad. It makes them inexperienced.
Yes.
Serial entrepreneurs develop patterns through learning, even around stuff like hiring, or they've got a better network, or they have access to better VCs, or they know how to execute certain things at certain times, at certain speeds. They know that these problems are coming, so they've already started to overcome them because they saw them before, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, first-time founders are at a huge disadvantage. So then I wanted to look at the numbers to validate my thinking. I didn't want to just be the crazy person, right, who builds something that doesn't actually solve a problem. So I was like, okay, let's look at some of these numbers, right? And we found some interesting papers from like MIT. One of them was a stat on serial entrepreneurs are 67% more likely to have success than their first-time peers.
Okay, wow.
So, whoa, that's a big number,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then I don't want to be the doomsdayer, but I wanted to look at the like failure rate in startups. And I specifically focused this on tech, which is broad, but like I didn't want like one-man band recruitment businesses or single-person consultancies that were closing shops.
Yeah.
People
I mean, you can
right?
skew numbers.
Yeah, I didn't want them skewing. And we're very focused on the tech space, right? So what's the failure rate? And I looked at 20 years.
Okay.
And it's been in the 80% for a long time.
Wow.
It's been as high as 87, it's been as low as 80, but it's largely stayed in the same space for 20 years, which is nuts, right?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So even for the VCs, that means 80 to 87% of the time, you fail.
Yes.
For the founders, it's a tough slog.
Oh, yeah,
right?
it is.
First
so
founders,
demotivating.
which means that there's correlation between the serial entrepreneur hypothesis that I had versus the first-time founder, right? And then if you look at like the reasons they fail, again, we did 20 years because we wanted there to be correlation. In the top 3 has been leadership, consistently. So that's like a top-down approach, right? It's like a reverse engineering thing, right? If you're going to reverse engineer the outcomes of a company, what are the milestones that you have to start with to get there?
Yes.
It's the same thing. If you hire the wrong leader, it's the wrong profile, it's the wrong timing. It should be something else. It should be a CPO, and all of there's lots of variables in it.
Yeah.
There's correlation between leadership and failure.
Yes.
And if you look at the steps, like from like founding a company to the successful outcome, whether that's a big IPO or an acquisition at the right price, whatever it is, right? They're always the same. Doesn't matter what industry it is, from writing it down on a napkin, in the pub or a restaurant, to a friend and showing them it, to the exit, they're always the same, which means some shit's broken, right?
Yeah.
And we started to think about like what, as operators, as people who are going to build a company, what are our strengths and what steps can we fix? And fundamentally, it was like, how do we fix this leadership issue?
Yeah. Do you mind just doing a quick summary of what those steps are for the audience?
Oh, I mean, there's so many. There's like 150, right?
Yeah. Shivers.
So from like writing it down on the back of a napkin to then like understanding your users and doing interviews to then executing a throwaway MVP that some people were going to buy, right?
Yes.
To then hiring some people at the right time when you've got the right amount of money, to then raising capital, right?
Yes.
To then getting to your next capital raise, which means like fleshing out your product roadmap and then delivering against that, continuously speaking to your users and understanding like every single time, what do they want? What do they need? Then when do we add a sales function? Then when do we think about the org in a more broad sense? Then how do we execute against like getting from 2 million ARR to 10 million? Because that's a big leap.
Oh, indeed.
Actually, this is the easier part of the journey, right? Like, and I'm not saying getting to 10 million ARR is an easy thing, but if you think about then when you get to like series B, C, and D stage, when you've got to like go from 10 million to 50 million ARR, and because the things that you did to get to 10 million are not going to get you to 50 million.
That's right.
Sometimes the mistakes that we make are like, let's just add more of that.
Yeah.
Right. And they look at like, oh, we've got 10 people in the sales org today who are carrying quota, or supposedly, or should be, and we're at 10 million. Let's add another 10 and we'll get to 20 million. It doesn't work like that, right?
Indeed.
And then like, oh shit, now we're doing that. We need to go to North America because as a SaaS business, that's where the largest volume of our customers are. So they just go.
Yeah.
It's like, why do you just do that? Like, it's a massive, enormous bet, about $1 million to start off with, right?
Yeah.
And the first ever VP sales I hired in North America was a catastrophe.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And I thought I'd done my research. It was the first time I'd ever done anything in America. Me and the chief operating officer went over at the time, and this person just spoke so eloquently to us.
Yeah.
And I spoke to a bunch of people out there. What are the things I should look out for? What are the barriers to entry for us as a business coming there? What does good operator look like in the region? So I thought I had it all fleshed out.
Yeah.
And this person just slick talked me.
Yeah.
And both of us in the final interview went, we have to hire this person.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
Didn't deliver a thing.
Damn. Yeah. I mean, that can be the issue sometimes with salespeople.
Yeah, so this is what I mean by how many steps there are. There's loads.
Yeah.
So imagine like a first-time founder. If you actually wrote all of those steps out, don't do it, by the way, because it would just scare the life out of you. Like, focus on the thing you need to do now, always, and execute that quickly. But it's a big, old, daunting task, right?
Indeed.
It's massive. If we can solve one of those things right now, later down the line, there'll be more things coming. Our big mission is to change that number. Change that 80 to 87% number. Get it down to 75% by now.
Nice. Which will have a huge impact.
Yeah, then get it down to 60. Like, if we can do those things, that's great.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of steps.
Indeed.
We want to help fix them. And we do that now with access to leadership in the right moment at the right time. And we do that two ways. And we have two products today. One isn't launched yet, but we're going to talk about it today because it's about to launch.
Sure.
The person helping me build it is about to go nuts when they see this because now it's pressure on, right?
Yeah.
So we're essentially building a marketplace which gives founders access to fractional executives. It's really that simple. So supply and demand, right? Demand is founders, supply is fractional executives.
Yeah.
Why this is really important and solves a problem is one of the biggest or the biggest killer of startup businesses is speed of execution. And then we talk about wrong hiring as well as a compounding element to that.
Yes.
Sometimes you don't need to hire the executive, right? You need a really experienced executive who's built shit in your space, who can solve your problem quickly, and you don't need the long-term commitment because then you need to move on to something else.
That's it. You're buying execution.
You're buying expertise to execute against a specific thing. That's the value of a fractional executive. I want to be really clear on that because I speak to founders and they start with the price point. I can get someone amazing cheaper now. Yeah. That's not the start point.
Yeah.
That's the thing that gives you access.
Yes.
Where you never had it before. And we've signed up some incredible, to test that we could create value. I wanted to know that the quality supply was there first. So we drove that.
Yeah.
And organically. Did no outreach. I wanted to see what's going to come in.
Yes.
Because at some point we can't manually keep outreaching, right? It has to organically grow.
Indeed.
So we did a cohort of about 80 and I spoke to almost everybody, right? Yeah. So far, still going through it. I was shocked at the quality that existed.
Yeah.
And the value that could be created. Because my fear was like, we're going to have a bunch of like skill-based contractors who are super valuable, by the way, but it's not this. Sign up because it's a wave, right? And it gives them access to more jobs. And we'd had some founders who had instances where they were definitely kind of duped by somebody who wanted a day rate skill-based thing, and they thought they were getting a fractional person and they didn't. So we wanted to avoid that non-value creation. But the quality has been insane.
Yeah,
that shocked people who have built some of the biggest success stories in Europe and the US over the last 20 years as like senior leadership people, from product people to finance people to technology people, just some incredible talent, people who I've admired, signed up, right? Because they've done the thing now and they've done it multiple times and they want to help more broadly, and this gives them the freedom to work on their own and do that, right? Because I think one of my co-founders was told by his he has an amazing success story on his record. Yes. And was told so when they exited, the founder of that business gave him one piece of advice. He said, don't go and work for another first-time founder again.
Really? Wow, yeah.
Me and you have been to war for over a decade, right? And you don't want to rehash that again. Go and do something new, right? And that was interesting for me, because that person recognized that now he understands all of the patterns. He wouldn't do 50% of the things he did again. And it might take an even shorter period of time to get there. So that was really interesting. Yes, yeah. So we're solving that problem by giving people access to that, first and foremost. And the second thing we're doing is reimagining executive search. And I want to be clear, in the context of startup and scale-up businesses. Yes. Executive search has its place. I know a lot of the partners in a lot of the top 5 firms. Some of them are friends, and they're really great at their job. But in the context of a startup and scale up, I think traditional executive search is a little bit broken for a few reasons. The first reason is it's really slow. Yeah. In the context of a startup scale up business. So we talked about speed of execution being the number one killer. Yes. So wait 120 days to close an executive that's going to change the trajectory of your business. Plus another 90 days in Europe to get that person in seat. This is not America here, right? This is like 3 month, 6 month notice period. Yeah. It's over half a year. Yeah, you cannot wait that amount of time for the executive in seat. So if we can trim even 3 months off that, we should. The second reason is it's really expensive in the context of a lot of startup scale up businesses. So like 30% of total remuneration package for a Series A business that just raised 10 to 15 million bucks. It's a lot of cash. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So like, how do we understand more deeply the revenue and fundraise trajectory of a startup business and execute at speed? Yes. They're the two things. And the second thing is like the final thing, which is actually largely the biggest and most compounding thing, and is the thing that now customers are feeding back to us, is the reason they pick us. Yeah. They're mostly, and it's not 100%, mostly non-operators. So people who haven't been in startup and scale up businesses. Yeah. So have a knowledge gap on what is actually required in that business. Yeah. And sometimes the thing is required is that going way back before the brief to help the founder get to the right thing in the first place. Yes. Taking a brief is not enough. We interviewed like 100 founders and they were all petrified. Yeah. First time founders. Yeah. Petrified of hiring an executive. Yeah. I don't know why. I wouldn't know where to start. I've never been an executive before. I wouldn't know how to interview them. So we have to go way beyond. So we're building a product that actually goes beyond the brief taking bit. We become their co-pilot. Yes. And we start with the why. Yeah. Like the why is not, I need a technical person because I'm not technical. That's the what and the who. The why is like, what are we trying to do? What's the big strategic objective as a business that we're trying to achieve? Yeah. If we understand that, we can then understand the what. Yes. So what needs to be delivered that you can't deliver today? The what will then help you define the who. Yeah. Yeah. And this is where we've had businesses who come at us with like, I think I need a CPO. And then we do this discovery thing. It's like, you definitely don't. And they go, no, I don't. I get it now, right? Yeah. That's it. We do that, and we've built a whole toolkit around that's self-serve, but they can asynchronously use us to help them through it as well. Fantastic. And that means that we can be more accurate at speed than normal, because actually one of the things that contributes to the close number that we just talked about, the slow number, yes, is like first time founder procrastination, lack of confidence. So we have to fix that bit. And but it's on the search firm to fix it. And I don't think it's been fixed because it's mostly non-operators.
Yeah.
Right. So we're just about to sign a customer who's literally picked us because the number one reason is the three founders have been operators. And they said to us that you clearly understand the nuance of what is required to build a business like this.
That's right.
And we didn't even ask you questions about it. It's just the way that you spoke and the things that you spoke about triggered us going, wow, like we didn't even think about that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it's adding that value there. And then again, because that's small, we also have a rule where we don't run searches side by side as an individual who's running a search. So we give them laser focus on the outcome when we get that delivered. We care about the success of the hire, not the hire being made. So we build everything from that point.
Indeed. And look, I mean, I think one comment and then a question. The comment is one of the chats we were having on the way in, where you referenced the fact that you'd advised 7 founders, you'd built 7 executive teams, so you'd probably interviewed about 700 high-level operators. And when you think about the total addressable market of potential operators in the UK and Europe, that's a pretty high percentage of that market.
That's the network, right? And that's the third thing. So I ask every customer that signs with us or doesn't sign with us, why? What are the 3 things that you picked someone based on?
Yes, yeah.
And part of that is so that I can help educate them on actually some of the things that are important that they maybe didn't think about, but also help us understand the product that we need to deliver. Because we need to understand their thinking and why they would want to use a search product.
Yes, indeed.
And sometimes someone comes to us with a search and we're like, you need a fractional executive, right? This is the reason why. You actually just need to solve this problem really quickly, and you need an expert to do it who's operated in your space before, who has the technical capacity to do so in a given field, whether it's a finance person or a technical person or a product person. Oh shit, it's because they can then execute quick again.
Indeed.
And it's like you're way too early for a person of that magnitude.
Yes, yeah. Second point,
and 700 people, like you said, is a lot, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a
huge
lot.
And there's good and bad in that, right? And parts of the value of even traditional search is like having those relationships to be able to pick up the phone to, I don't know, the CFO from some big fintech organization that's had massive success and say, hey, buddy, I've got this thing, you should go and talk to them.
Yes.
That's one value of exec search. One of the things I say to the customers, because they always ask about like, how big is your CRM?
Yeah.
And I have actually said like, I'm going to call bullshit on the CRM. And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, okay, this company, your X company with Y need, with Z limitations.
Yes.
I could have a CRM of 1 million people. Let's not use 1 million. That's a big number. It's 1,000, right? 99.9% of that CRM is useless to you.
Yeah.
Then you add on top like, is the 0.01% available, interested, ready, and can you afford them? The CRM's useless.
That's right. It's a vanity metric.
Understanding the CRM is useful to us because it's network, right? So there might be people in that percent that there's the value.
Yeah.
But don't pick a search firm based on the CRM.
Yeah.
It's the wrong starting point.
Yeah.
Pick a search firm who's going to help you execute the right outcome.
Yes.
That's fundamentally the most important thing.
Indeed.
Because there's like, you go to your immediate network. Are you available? Are you interested? You have all of the right data points that match this role.
Yes.
And I think you'll get on with the founder based on X, Y, and Z. And I think you would be interested in this, and then they are. That's great. So that's part of it. The second part is your network's network.
Yeah.
Cool, you're not. Who do people know who would be interested in this thing? And those people will give you people because you have a relationship with them and they trust you, right? So because you've created value for them at some point in your life.
Yeah.
And then the third thing, which takes up most of the time and most of the value, is they've understood and helped you get to the point, and they now understand the brief so deeply that they go to market.
Yeah.
They go to market accurately. So it's not like spray and pray. It's like, I'm going to accurately present a pipeline of people to you who you just need to pick from now, by the way, because they're all so accurately matched.
Yes.
I've always been a huge fan of like optimize the funnel. Don't mask the funnel.
Yeah, indeed.
Particularly at leadership level. You have to be really accurate, right?
Yeah.
It's the thing we talked about earlier. Like if you reverse engineer the outcomes of a company, getting the right people in the right seats at the right time is fundamentally the first milestone. You pick the wrong leader or a bad leader, or it's the wrong profile.
Yeah.
Everything up like before it's broken. They'll hire the wrong people. They'll build the wrong strategy. They'll execute badly. They won't get on with the founder.
Yes. Yes.
So you have to get the leadership thing right, which is why we deeply believe that if we solve that problem, we'll change the number.
Indeed. Indeed. So, Tom, we've discussed money a couple of times in the sense that, you know, when you're an external recruiter, you were like, all right, you know, they're just sort of focused on the KPI, which is cash. You know, you've talked about the Series A company constraints in terms of making a strong leadership hire, but that's then 30% of total remuneration. Yeah, which is big. So, you know, the $1 million question is, how will Introde charge for its services?
One thing that's important to me is that we're transparent about everything, right? So, like, if you think about percentage charges against something like total remuneration for an executive, how do you even model that? As a person who's building a company, because modeling your money is part of the trick as well, right? Get your modeling right.
Yes.
And get it right so it's scalable and you don't run out of cash.
Yeah, indeed.
So that you can fundraise at the right price, blah, 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 right? So it's an important thing. And when it comes to like executives, they're going to negotiate, right? And then you're talking about being charged on options, bonuses, person that's going to negotiate their basic salary. Likely the budget you started with won't be the thing you ended with.
Indeed. Yeah.
So for me, that's a tough thing to ask of a Series A business who raised 10 to 15 million bucks. And 10 to 15 million bucks is a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
But every little counts. Every little thing, every little bit of detail counts. So we're very transparent and we don't charge percentages. So with each of our products, we have fundamentally a rubric that's mapped against the business's journey and trajectory. And it's not a one-size-fits-all thing, but we've made a rough estimate. And as we grow and learn more and more about like our own pricing, that will shift too. Find me a business that's original pricing plan, stay their original pricing plan, right? So if it's for inverted, which is the fractional offering that we have a simple fractional recruiting fee that's paid on completion. We connect the two things, they get to know each other, they're hired, we charge a fee, done. Right? We don't take anything off of the fractional executive. At the moment, we charge the founder a fractional fee. And the fractional fee is, again, a rubric. So if you're a Series A company, it's 7K. If you're a Series B company, it's 10K. So on and so forth, right? If you're a seed company, it's 5K. It becomes more nominal the earlier you are, right?
Indeed.
The value that you're getting for that is enormous, right? And that cost shouldn't be a barrier to entry. Which is why we built that rubric.
If I could just ask about that particular example, let's say it's a Series A company that's paying 7K. How much money do you estimate that they've saved as a result of hiring a fractional executive rather than doing a search and then hiring someone after 120 days plus notice?
It's like the amount they're saving is not necessary. They are saving a lot of money, by the way. Like I'm talking a lot of money because so you take the search fee as an example. Let's say it's 80K. So you saved 73K. Number one. Right up front. The time cost of the execution is probably 3x that number. And then the salary of the person. Right, and then the cost implications of it being the wrong hire at the wrong time, 10x it.
Indeed.
So we're making an enormous saving, right? Just by getting the thing right. And all we do is connect them to the thing that's right in the moment. Right?
Indeed.
Sometimes it's a fractional executive. Sometimes they actually need a permanent person, in which case they need search. The cost thing is the thing I said to you before, is the thing that gives them access to the thing that they need.
Indeed.
Right?
But it's like always important, at least I've found from a sales side, is quantify, the pain that they will encounter without that.
And that's why we do discovery with everybody, whether they come in through the inverted funnel or they come in through the insider funnel, insider being the search product. The reason we do discovery is so that we can quantify the risk and reward. And the pain and the remedy, right? Because we go through discovery and they think that they want or need a permanent person. It turns out that they're probably too early.
Yeah.
And they need someone to solve a problem quickly who's an expert.
Yes, yes.
That's highly valuable, right?
Yeah.
So we always talk to them. The discovery bit identifies the pain and the remedy, always. And I'm not going to do a search with you because that's the thing that generates my business more money.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the thing that's going to get you to the outcome that you want.
Yes.
Because then we're delivering quality value and we can change the number that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, yeah.
I could quite easily just take a search off everybody, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the thing that makes us the most money as a business.
Yes. Yeah.
We have the same rubric in search, by the way.
Okay.
If you want a C-suite person and you're a Series A company, it's X.
Yes.
If you're a Series B company and you want a VP or head of, it's Y.
Yeah.
You're so on and so forth, right?
Yeah.
And it's all there for people to see right up front. This is what it costs.
Fantastic.
By the way, that's usually about 30% cheaper than what you would pay a traditional search business.
Okay. Excellent.
Right?
Yeah.
Roughly in each stage and each part of the rubric.
Fantastic.
But I'm not going to give you that if that's not the thing that's going to get you to the outcome. So I'll put you back into the inverted funnel because we've figured out through discovery that that's actually the thing that you need. What happens is then we create maximum value for the business and maximum trust in our brand.
Yes, yes.
And when they need, what's interesting about our product is our ecosystem kind of serves itself and serves as customers.
Yes.
So when we do an exec search, for example, we have like currently today about 140 fractional executives signed up in the platform.
Yeah.
Those fractional executives come direct founders to us when those founders need search.
Yeah.
When we start a search, those fractional executives are our network that we also talked to you about earlier.
Yes, yes.
Does anybody know anybody who might be good for this?
Yeah.
So we can immediately be quicker because we have an immediate network who are always active with us.
Yes, yeah, fantastic.
In reverse, let's say we run a search for a business and we place the CFO. They recognize that they have a problem in product that they need to solve instantly. Where do they come?
They come back to you. Yeah.
Because they trust our brand deeply because we gave them the right thing in the first place.
Yeah.
And they know that we have the other thing as and when they need it.
Yes.
And there's different use cases for each thing. My original hypothesis was that fractional was going to be, so we mapped the journey using the VC journey, right? That pre-seed less, we do a lot of advisory with pre-seed, mostly for free. It's like our sandbox, like we'll help you get over some stuff.
Yeah.
We'll see you when you're a bit later down the line and you actually need us.
Indeed.
And you pay for that product. So we do that. But interestingly, we have Series B and C companies coming to us for fractional executives.
Yeah, yeah.
Just like, shit, we're in a growth phase and our CMO just quit.
Yeah.
And we need to get to X number because we need to raise money by then at this valuation. Otherwise, we're on a down round and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Can we have a fractional growth person? Sure, right? Gets them through a moment, solves a problem, gets them to where they need to be, gives them some time to really think about what do they need when they hire their next executive. Will help identify a bunch of things that they weren't necessarily thinking about. By the way, they can convert the fractional executive if it's going really well. We have a small conversion fee.
Yeah, yeah.
15K.
Yeah. Bring them in-house. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Job done.
Yes.
So we have this like ecosystem that kind of feeds itself. You're probably going to ask me about go-to-market, right?
yeah. You can touch upon that.
Yeah. So our revenue streams at the moment are fractional fee.
Yep.
That's nominal. Search fee. Conversion fee.
Nice. Yeah.
That's our current model.
Yeah. Fantastic.
In the offerings that we have. By the way, the search product isn't quite live yet. It's about to go live.
Yeah, well, that comes in well with my next question, which is, what do we have to look forward to? What's on Introde's roadmap?
Yeah, so the search things, so the big thing that we want to solve is the leadership thing. That's the first thing. We're laser focused on doing that, right? Search is the next thing coming. Fractional executive, the inverted piece is still in its infancy. But we drove really good supply. Now we're driving some demand. That's great.
Nice.
We're bootstrapping as well.
Yeah.
So at the moment, everything's run in Airtable.
Nice.
Magical tool, by the way. You can build a business using Airtable.
It's great. For sure.
So we use that to like capture data and connect the right things in the right moments, right? And we have a founder's Airtable, we have a fractional executive's Airtable, and then we have our website that directs people to those two things.
Yeah.
we're about to launch the search product. The most important thing for us to build was to make it a product, so that we could help the founder confidence and lack of knowledge in the first bit. Because it's again reverse engineering outcomes. If you F the first bit up, your outcome's probably going to be fucked too, right? So it's like, how do we get the first bit right? How do we help founders get to the point that they need to get to, so that we can execute quickly with accuracy and the right outcome? So we've been building the toolkit. I've secretly managed to hire the person I really wanted to help me do that. She won't like the publicity, so I won't say her name, but she will see this. But she's genuinely the best internal talent person I've ever seen.
Wow.
And she's helping me build that toolkit.
Nice.
And we did a bunch of interviews with a bunch of founders to understand what they need, so we can build that product.
Fantastic.
So that's coming. We actually started this with, how do we give really early stage founders access to customers, which is where the name Intro came from. We wanted to unlock the world's contact book. Like, you've been an operator, right? You probably have a massive contact book of people that you've met in your life, in your career, done deals with. Those contacts are valuable for some startup founder somewhere, right?
Indeed.
And you can make some side hustle money, commission only money, just for making introductions and helping a founder go through the sales cycle, right? The side hustle market in America is about $12 billion. It's massive. All great commercial operators do that. So we were like, how do we unlock the contact book? Because we're bootstrapping, running that manually is a big lift.
Indeed.
So the next thing we'll do is we'll unlock customers for founders through warm introduction. We'll unlock the world's contact book.
Nice.
But for now, we're super focused on the leadership thing.
The
introduction piece, we do a little bit now. My co-founder, who's a commercial superstar, ex Shazam, went through all of the journey with them. He's an enterprise relationship guy. He's awesome at that, and he does consult with some founders today on unlocking doors.
Fantastic.
And how to build go-to-market strategy early and all of that good stuff.
Yeah.
So that will come down the line, but now it's definitely the leadership stuff.
Excellent.
Eventually what we'll do, because we're bootstrapping, we're not taking VC money. Interestingly, VCs are our champion as well. Like, for the products that we have, we plug into venture capital into their portfolio and give them the right thing at the right time.
Yeah, indeed.
As I say to the venture capitalists when I speak to them, the 80 to 87% failure rate number means that you fail that much too. So we change the number for you, we change the number for founders.
Oh yeah, and it impacts their performance. It can help them raise more money,
right? So that's what we're doing now. They're the things that are coming. Eventually, when we're at the right cash moment in the business, we build a platform. It's basically a marketplace for each of those products, and you connect people to the things that they need as and when they need them.
Fantastic.
Super simple. And maybe our revenue model changes at that point, and it's a subscription-based model. We don't know. Everybody jumps on subscription, right? We must do subscription because it's a consumer behavior that's happened over the last 10 years. But actually now you're fighting for wallet space, right? Even if you're B2B. If you look at the moment that we're in at the moment, all CFOs are cutting subscriptions. Right? So maybe it's that, maybe it's not. We're very open to learning from our customers. We speak to them all of the time. And that's how we build our products.
Fantastic.
So the next new thing, search.
Excellent. Look, Tom, we've covered a lot today. It's been fantastic. Just in terms of closing off, are there 3 takeaways that you'd like to share with founders and operators out there based upon, your career?
One important thing. We talked about serial entrepreneurs versus first-time founders. The best serial entrepreneurs, the two people I worked with that had the best outcomes, had recognized the importance of the patterns in hiring. Even at a leadership level, and were unwavering in those patterns. So it's really important to take hiring in leadership very seriously. You get the leadership hire wrong, and everything that follows that in that particular function will be broken. And often catastrophically so. It's one of the top 3 contributors for startup failure. Has been for the last 20 years.
Far out.
So we must take that seriously. And the best serial entrepreneurs I've seen understand the patterns and the things that are required, even the structures in interviewing, to get the right people. So that's ultimately the one big takeaway for me that I'd like to give to founders is take that thing really seriously.
Yeah.
It's really important. And even the deep thinking about what you actually need.
Yes.
We have a method, if anybody wants to see it, which is the why, the what, the who, and the how, which is how we've developed our toolkit and how we've developed our discovery toolkit to help people understand actually what they need.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a fractional executive so that you can get past the problem, continue to execute quickly and run fast.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a permanent strategist in a particular function, in which case you need search. But you also need to do the discovery bit well for that too. Yeah. So that's I only have one big takeaway.
Yeah. Fantastic.
They get that. Like we see it on LinkedIn now and we see it on social media. Some people like Stephen Bartlett, they talk about how important hiring is, right? Yeah. And even first time founders talk about it or like those things. And I've seen it and then they don't behave that way when they're doing it. Yeah. I'm like, and it's not because they don't care. It's because they don't know how, which means they need support. Yeah. Which is where Introde comes in, right? We are a co-pilot for getting that stuff right. Yeah. And if you get that shit right, honestly, company flies.
Yeah, indeed. No, I think that's a really good point. It's very easy to talk about something. It is much harder to do it and to execute it well.
But it's hard to figure out how, right? And there's a nervousness around it. So then there's an avoidance. Yeah. Like with founders who have been a little bit hesitant or unknowledgeable in the past, I've used one kind of paragraph. Yes. I'm like, okay, what's the outcome that you want? And some of them might say, I want a big company. Some of them might want to say, I want 50 million in revenue. Some of them might say, I want an IPO. Most of them say, I want an IPO, right? They have to say that because of the investor stuff, right? Yeah. But that's an outcome. So the IPO at X price, great. I go, and most of the founders I've worked with, fortunately, have been technical or product people. So they're systems thinkers largely. Yeah. So I go, okay, let's reverse engineer that outcome. And they get that immediately, right? Yep. And what's the first thing? It's people, right? I said, I literally just said, if you mess that one up, forget about the rest.
Everything else will collapse.
That thing that you want won't happen. Indeed. Something else will happen. And I'm not saying that you'll shut doors, but you won't get there. Yeah. So first, deeply understand where you want to go. Second, take the first step really seriously. Yeah. Fantastic. Because that's one of the steps that we talked about earlier. If you map the steps from starting a business to your exit or whatever it is that you want, that's the first broken one. Mostly. 90% of people are shit at hiring. Yes. In my first internal talent role, I was shit at hiring. Yeah. I had to learn the hard way. I talked about a mistake that we made in America before, right? Indeed. It's a thing that you have to deeply commit to. And do discovery work and research work and understanding work and then building stuff work and then executing. Yeah. Same as anything else. Yeah. Sometimes people brush over it.
Yeah, no, indeed.
If you hire really well up here, it can then scale organically without you, the founder, needing to be involved because you built a process around it. You embed that in the business. You hire a really great person, say a CRO, who then also is awesome, and they're awesome because they're also good at hiring. Yeah. They'll fall into your practices that fit within your businesses and they'll do it really well too. Yes, yeah. Which frees you up as the founder to go and execute other things really well. Indeed. And if you can't do that, you'll be slow again, right? And that's why it's broken.
Indeed.
That's my big takeaway.
It's a fantastic one. Tom, thanks so much for your time today, and we look forward to watching Introde's progress.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I've enjoyed every minute.
You're most welcome. Thank you, buddy. Tom. Nice. Cheers.
One. Bye.